Hello and welcome to the Pro Wrestling Post Podcast. On this week's show,
Karrion Kross drops the NXT Championship. Find out what that means and more.
Roman Reigns has returned and a payback card for this Sunday. All that and more on this week's show. Hello everybody and welcome once again to the Pro Wrestling Post Podcast. How are we all? All good, I hope. This week we are a member down. Our head honcho, Mark Madison, has had to be called away on site business. We hope he's all good and I'm sure he will be back next week. So this week it's just myself and Pete. How are we, Pete?
We're doing just fine, Mark. How about yourself?
I am very good. It's a balmy Friday afternoon here in the UK. I am just relaxing and chatting wrestling with you. It's all good. I can't think of any better way to spend my Friday evening, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a perfectly good Friday afternoon.
Fantastic. So, as we mentioned in the open there, we have spoken about the Karrion Kross NXT situation. Would you like to expand on that anymore?
So, last week at NXT TakeOVer 30, Karrion Kross took on Keith Lee for the NXT Championship and defeated Keith Lee for the NXT Championship. We had a new champion, Karrion Kross. This week, however, on NXT, he announced that due to an injury, he will have to relinquish the title.
I saw over here in the UK, obviously we're 5 hours in front of the East Coast over there. So NXT finished, I think, around about 2:30, 2:45 a.m. over here, and not long after that, it became apparent that Karrion Kross had suffered was it a separated shoulder?
Yeah, I believe it was something in the shoulder.
Yeah, and there was rumours abound. Could he carry on? Could he hold the title until the next pay-per-view? Would he have to be drop the title? Would he be stripped? Wednesday came and went, and as you said, he had to relinquish the title.
Yeah, which is truly unfortunate given the monster push we've seen him get in the last few months. It really seems like he could lose quite a lot of momentum in the time that he'll be out with his injury. But I must say, I'm kind of surprised that Keith Lee lost the title so soon after winning it. I thought that Keith Lee was going to have a reign at least comparable to, say, Ron Simmons or Ron Killings. I thought we would have he'd be champion for a couple months and then he'd lose it, maybe War Games, maybe get into a feud with Kross and then carry that through until he finally debuted next year. But that was not in the plans. Well,
we all said last week we did not see Keith losing that match at all, and they swerved us. They absolutely swerved us, and Karrion picked up the title in like the shortest time ever from a debut to a championship victory, and then add on to the fact that Keith Lee held the title for the second shortest reign in NXT history. It's a sad ending to Karrion's first title run, but with the promo that he cut on that last Wednesday, that was amazing. I mean, you are literally waiting for him to come back and just decimate whoever is the title holder by then.
Yeah, really. He's a guy who's very intimidating and will be a force to be reckoned with once he gets back. But it's just truly unfortunate that he wasn't able to go into that monster champion run.
I was waiting for, as you said, that monster long decimation of the entire roster. What did he call it? Doomsday. He referenced it in his promo Wednesday that Doomsday hadn't actually begun yet. So that was a nice callback, but he will, as you said, he will come back stronger, fitter, and just ready to take on anyone and everyone to get his title back, which then leads us on to the announcement at the end of the show from William Regal.
Yes, the NXT Championship will be up for grabs in a Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match to be contested between Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole, Finn Balor, and the returning Tomasso Ciampa.
That's amazing. That's NXT's on Tuesday next week, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, I'm sure they said it was a Super Tuesday show. I might be preempted because of NBA games or something along those lines. Being a Brit, I'm not too sure how that works, but I'm sure I saw that it was next Tuesday. And, I mean, for half of your show, you're going to have a main event. I'm a fan of Iron Man matches. I'm a fan of
I love Iron Man matches as well. That the classic between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, one of the greats of all time. I've mentioned a lot of Iron Man matches since we started recording the podcast.
Do you think they're actually listening to us and have they taken on board what you've been saying?
And maybe that's the reason they've gone for this Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match, which is something that's kind of new and exciting, but also feels like the apotheosis of a thing that they were doing, I want to say late 2008, with the championship scramble matches. Do you remember those?
I do remember them, yeah.
Yeah.
Usually on SmackDown.
Yeah, it was usually a SmackDown. Well, there was one pay-per-view where it seemed like every championship was in a scramble match.
I remember that, yes. Yeah, great memory.
This Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match seems like what Championship Scramble should have been. For those of you who don't remember Championship Scramble match, the Championship Scramble match was, I think it was 5, maybe 6 men in a match. And there was a time limit, and whoever had scored the most recent pinfall within that time limit would walk out the champion, which provided some interesting moments. For a while, it looked like Brian Kendrick might have been WWE champion. But overall, I think that was just a confusing mess, whereas this Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match concept is makes a lot more sense and will be an interesting thing to see.
This is, I mean, the caliber of competitor involved in this match, all obviously former champions, all, to be fair, are on top of the game right now. I mean, Adam Cole, as of recording, the PWI top 100 or top 500, sorry, wrestlers was released this morning, I think it was, or maybe even yesterday. And Adam Cole, in my eyes, should have been number one. He's had match after match after match that was not only just stellar, but just so damn good. And nothing against John Moxley, who is the PWI's number one, but he hasn't wrestled half as much as Adam Cole. And Adam Cole's just had an amazing matches all the way, as I said, all the way through this past year. Throw into the mix, you have Tomasso Ciampa, who is the champion who never actually lost his title. He had to relinquish it, who came back Wednesday just gone on the most recent episode of NXT and has come back with a possible heel kind of feel to him. I'm not too sure if he's 100% heel yet or not. It's going to be very strange if he is, because the whole match would be 3 heels and 1 tweener, which we'll get to in a minute. Then we have Johnny Gargano even, who has reinvented himself, a la Chris Jericho, into this obnoxious heel with his wife Candice. And again, he can pull matches out of his arse, to be fair. Mm-hmm. And then we have the last competitor is Finn bloody Balor, who we all expected him to be thrust into the title situation as soon as he came back to NXT, and has been kept away. And then due to circumstances and this concept has been pushed in, and he's my pick. He is my pick.
You know what? He's my pick as well, because you talk about the caliber of these competitors, and I agree with you 110%. These guys are like the absolute top of NXT. But at the same time, it feels like they've been at the top of NXT for years now. While it's an absolutely great match, but it also kind of feels like the NXT main event holding pattern, in that whenever something goes wrong, they can turn back to these 3-4 guys and be sure to have an absolute barn burner.
Do you think they've made a mistake in bringing up Keith Lee to Raw and just completely bypassing his rematch clause, yes, which I would imagine he would have had?
Yes, I do. Like I said last week, I thought that Keith Lee's championship reign, especially in the zeitgeist, I guess, as he'd come into the kind of social context with the issues with race relations in America, having Keith Lee as world champion was, or not world, as NXT champion, I should say, was a statement, and it gave him a platform with which to do something. And I think that it ended so soon was kind of the most shocking thing. And I think if that's what they intended, if that was something they set up entirely to put over Karrion Kross, then, well, congratulations, you got yourself a monster now. But I think there was more to be done with Keith Lee's championship reign.
100% with you there. It feels like that Vince or the higher ups in WWE saw the decline in ratings for Raw and SmackDown, saw that Keith Lee was and still is a big thing on NXT, and was like, right, if we bring him up, maybe ratings will pop. I brought him up, changed his theme music, changed his look, not made him the person that he was on NXT, and ratings didn't pop. It's a waste. He should have at least. I remember times when Asuka lost the NXT title and she at least had a rematch. Bayley as well. Finn before he came up. They all had their rematches before. They had their swan song match, so to speak, before they all came up to obviously Raw and SmackDown. And it's a shame that Keith can't do that. Whether or not he will go back to NXT hasn't been said at this time. But not including him in this four-way is a complete and utter slap in the face.
Exactly. I'm still if he were to replace Finn just as a surprise on next Wednesday, that would be absolutely fantastic, and I would instantly change my pick to for who to win to him. But even at that point, I think the writing's on the wall. He's coming up, and he might be the victim of Vince McMahon's creative, like so many other NXT call-ups have been.
Vince McMahon's creative in the past 5 years has been spot on. So who are we to disagree with that, hey?
He did invent wrestling.
He did invent wrestling. There was no wrestling until Vince McMahon invented wrestling in 1981 in the state of New York, blah, 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 whatever. It's just a shame that Keith Lee has just been overlooked, so to speak, and brought up to popular ratings. But it is what it is, and to be fair, I'm really looking forward to that four-way. It is going to be on at silly o'clock over here in the UK, and even though I do have work the next morning, I will be actually getting up and watching it somehow, by hook or by crook. I'll be watching this match because it is, apart from the Boneyard match, this match has grabbed me the most this year, so I will be going out of my way to try and find that before I end up going to work and seeing spoilers all over the internet.
Yeah, absolutely stacked match.
Nothing else, as far as I know, nothing else has been announced for that show. Being as it's only a two. What have you heard? What have you heard?
I actually haven't heard anything.
Oh, the way you cut me off there, I was like, there'll be no inside scoop, but damn it.
I'm sorry, I'll be quiet now.
It's that's the only thing announced, and as I said, that takes up half the show at least, because obviously entrances and everything else that goes on.
Yeah,
it's going to be
pageantry.
Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. That's it's going to be a stacked show on Tuesday. So get yourselves out there, watch that show, and watch us be completely wrong, like we have been quite a lot since this podcast started about our picks. We've both chosen Finn Balor, and it could be option E, the Berserker. We don't know. We're not sure.
Oh man, you have no idea how big a fan of the Berserker I am.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
Oh man, you should have carried that on. That'd been brilliant. So from NXT, we will hop over to the other side, so to speak, and we'll talk about a new TNT Champion. So last Wednesday on Dynamite, Mr. Brodie Lee pinned and demolished Cody to win and capture the TNT Championship, writing off Cody from TV by the sound of it.
Yeah, I have it in my notes. That was the biggest surprise this week. And I shouldn't say that it's quite the biggest surprise in and of itself. I think the biggest surprise is kind of how it went down. Because while I was watching that match, all I could think was something's up with Cody. He didn't seem to be in the right headspace. Like, he didn't get a lot of offense in. He didn't seem to have that ring awareness that he usually has. It kind of brings me back to memories of that Lesnar-Cena match at SummerSlam 2014, the birth of Suplex City. Just because in that match, Cena just seemed so disoriented and like he wasn't all there, which makes me wonder: is there some bigger storyline going on here between Brodie Lee and the Dark Order and Cody Rhodes.
Well, as you said there, you spoke about Lesnar and Cena. If it wasn't for Cena even, Lesnar wouldn't birth Suplex City and go on for like how long? A 6-year run as this dominant badass who rolled over everyone. Fast forward to 2020, and you see Brodie Lee dominate Cody, admittedly with the Dark Order right behind him, but he dominated in a way that, as you said, we haven't seen before. Cody's been this confident champion who's always been fighting as a confident champion. He never looked like he was going to lose. As you watch him wrestle, you think, no, Cody's got this. Cody, as you said, Cody didn't look himself. You knew something was wrong, something was up. And then seeing Brodie Lee just demolish him piece by piece, could that be a booking decision to make Brodie Lee the next huge heel stable going on with the Dark Order, with the Inner Circle not as dominant as what they were when Jericho was champion?
I do, actually. I think though, however, that Brodie Lee and the Dark Order did something to Cody beforehand. I am suggesting that, for entirely storyline, that Brodie Lee and the Dark Order potentially drugged Cody before the match started. And I say that because it seems suspicious that afterwards, when Brodie brings out the rest of the Nightmare family, it seemed kind of suspicious that Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall had already been beaten up. So what I'm thinking is that Mr. Brodie Lee orchestrated a big win for himself to bolster confidence within the Dark Order, and that this is the slower storytelling of the Dark Order beginning to pay off.
I hope he's true, because how long have people, internet smart marks, have said, "Oh, Dark Order useless. They were great. All this build up to this great big reveal. We wanted Matt Hardy. We've got Brodie Lee. Blah 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 blah." If this was the plan all along, fair bloody play to AEW. Fair play to Tony Khan and the rest of the boys for thinking this far ahead. Obviously, COVID's had a part to play, and they've had to work on the fly, much like every other promotion in the world. But if this is how it's worked out, fair play, stand up, applause, round of applause, tip my hat, well done.
Truly, because I remember in those early days of Dynamite when there was all those ads for the Dark Order website, I joined the mailing list for Dark Order. And I was so excited that I was going to be first to find out about new things that were happening in the Dark Order, and they sent me like one message, and it was just a video hyping a thing that was going to happen the next week on Dynamite. So that seemed to me like an example of a booking opportunity that they kind of blew, and now they've course corrected in such a phenomenal way. I think Brodie Lee is far more convincing as a cult leader than Bray Wyatt was.
Oh, that's a strong statement.
Because while Bray Wyatt was great at talking in riddles and making things sound very, very metaphysical and spiritual, I think Brodie Lee promising results and getting those results, even if, like I said, he probably had to orchestrate it for himself, really speaks to his capacity to run a cult compared to Bray Wyatt.
You've got a fair point there. As you said, in the cult leader stakes, Bray talked a good game and could never back it up, whereas Brodie Lee has talked a medium, a fair game,
and
has backed it up. Moderate game, and has completely backed it up. So yeah, you've got some definitely warrant some gold stars there, but. Where how long's Cody off TV? How long is?
So that's the thing, is that we don't have the exact numbers for how long he's going to be away. If I'm remembering correctly, it's because he's working on a project with Stephen Amell, who was there at the first All In. So yeah, him and Cody are very tight, and I think that's going to be 1-2 months at the least.
Well, say 8 weeks of Brodie Lee as TNT champ. Is he going to run through people in a dominant way? Is he going to run through them with outside help? Is it going to be?
I think he's going to run through people. I don't think he's going to be running through those people for the championship. As he said this week on Dynamite, the Open Championship the Open Challenge is no more.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of non-title matches, and we'll see how he does. Hopefully he carries on winning, because he's got to deliver in ways that Bray Wyatt didn't.
Exactly. Unfortunately for him, that's how people are going to judge this. He is in inverted commas, a Bray Wyatt disciple. Mm-hmm. Even though it's a completely different company and a completely different character, he will still be seen as a Bray Wyatt disciple. So whether or not he can pull this off better, first things first, he's got a championship, which is a lot more than what Bray Wyatt did when he was the cult leader days. So that's a major tick in his boxes there. Can he sustain it? Yeah, we'll see. I suppose, as you said, there's been no matches, like championship matches, announced going forward. Unlike Cody, who was the epitome of the fighting champion, he could be just holding off, doing non-titles, or maybe he's going. I'm surely the title will be on the line. Come All Out. When's that? It's a week tomorrow, according to recording. Any ideas who could that be? I've seen a few names online that could. I don't know if you've seen him. You've got a lot of people are saying that Lance Archer should get another look, but personally, looking two monster heels against each other, two big monster heels against each other like that.
There's only losses in that one.
Yeah,
I would like to see Matt Cardona.
That was my next choice,
because, like I said, him and Cody are very close, and I think that it would be the kind of thing that Matt Cardona would want to avenge. But if I remember correctly, he's involved in a match against the Dark Order next week. Yeah, him and some of the Nightmare family. I don't want to slow this thing down too much. I'm just gonna say that with confidence, and hope I'm not wrong.
So he's involved in a tag match next week with the members of the Dark Order. Mm-hmm. That will obviously be a lead in, hopefully, touch wood and everything else, will be a lead into his match against Brodie Lee at All Out next Saturday. By all accounts, he's not signed a long-term deal. Is it a 4 or a 5 date deal, Matt Cardona?
I believe so. Kind of a short-term deal at the moment. We might have him sign a contract like FTR did in a few weeks' time.
So you never know. Even though the people are out there saying, "Oh no, Matt hasn't signed a deal. It's going to be a waste of a match." You never know. Nobody knows what happens behind closed doors nowadays. The amount of times that we've been swerved by Uncle Vince, by people in AEW in the last 12 months.
The number of times we've been swerved since last week.
I'll try not to bring that up, so it makes us look bad, dude. But yeah, you're right. It could be. I can't see him. I can't him as in Brodie Lee pronouns. I can't see him Brodie Lee losing this soon. But to get a decent match from Matt Cardona, who, to be fair, is a great wrestler. He was completely underused in WWE, and he could get a great match out of anybody.
And I think, especially considering that Brodie Lee is not going to be doing the TNT Championship Open Challenge, I think this opens the door for perhaps the first real feud over that belt.
Yes, most definitely. And then, as we said, behind closed doors, Matt signed that deal, and we could see a 2-month, 3-month feud, and then bring Cody back to maybe help him win the big one, or the second big one in that company.
Exactly.
So
good stuff.
Yeah. What have AEW done? We have a few things to go on this week. Now, as I said at the beginning of the show, our head honcho, Mark Madison, is away on assignment on Pro Wrestling Post Business. So this week, yourself, Mark, are going to talk about the things that we have upcoming.
I'm Pete. Mark's away.
It's a long day.
So we have an AEW talent preview brought to us by Jake Landmesser about Anna Jay, the star of the show. Very young talent. She's only about 22. Started working in the independents in Georgia. Debuted in Georgia Premier Wrestling. Trained by Glacier, a guy who has always been very technically gifted, but has always been saddled with being the guy who had that gimmick. Yeah, we have.
Glacier was one of my guilty pleasures. Being over here in the UK, we didn't get WCW that often, and when I actually got around to watching WCW, seeing Glacier come out, I think I was about a year behind over here in the UK. Seeing him come out in his Mortal Kombat kind of gimmick, it was like, wow, this is really good. And the guy, as you said, was technically proficient. So I've seen him and some of his trainees come through. It's looking good.
Yeah. It's and he was he's been involved in AEW, and it seems maybe that's why we have one of his trainees, perhaps his biggest trainee so far, Anna Jay, with AEW. But yeah, we have a retrospective of her career and her rivals, or her rivalry with Thunder Blonde, and a whole bunch of stuff that she did for Georgia Premier Wrestling before she came to AEW.
Again, it was just a well-written piece. Our talent previews or indie spotlights or anything along those lines. Our boys and girls, they really dig deep and try and find out all the little bits of information that maybe you don't know, and it really comes across on this talent preview. So yeah, well done there.
Yeah, these are all really good. If you're new to AEW and want to know exactly who all these people are, all these talented individuals. Next, we have a piece that I wrote. As we know, 26 years ago this Thursday was the day that Shane Douglas threw down the NWA World Heavyweight Championship and kickstarted the birth of ECW as we understand it today.
In that title, much better and a lot older than Medusa did.
Yes, perhaps the first to really throw down a competitor's. Well, they're not really a competitor. Eastern Championship Wrestling was an NWA affiliate at the time, but it was one of those great moments of kind of breaking free of this history that they seemed to be. They felt chained to, and really the push to create something new, something more. And it was a really, really great experience going back and seeing some of those early ECW matches when you have some of the greats in the industry, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Shane Douglas, Too Cold Scorpio. Those early ECW days are really illustrative of what they were coming from and also what they would start to morph into before their time unfortunately came in 2001.
Being the guy on the site that's reviewing some old retro views of ECW events, this has been absolutely fantastic for me because I've gone back and read this, even though I've read about as much as anybody can, and you've seen the promo and everything, you've even seen the matches. Just seeing a brand new take 26 years later is great. As you said, it birthed ECW even. Oh my god! And it was just a moment in time that can never be replicated. That birthed the third promotion in America at the time, and the shockwaves it sent through NWA kind of led to its downfall.
Yeah, those were some. We even cover a little bit of the aftermath of Shane Douglas throwing down the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Has seen as the reason why we didn't see the NWA Championship on national television again for almost a decade after that event, when it came time for TNA to get their TV deal. But yeah, on the stay piece that came out on the site this week, I invite everybody to check it out, and along with all of our other on this day pieces, which come fairly regularly.
We do try as a site to get out an on this day piece at least 2, 3, 4 times a week, and as you said, they're all brilliantly written. They are fantastic to read, and again, strapline. We just don't entertain, we educate. So get yourself over there, over to the site at prowrestlingpost.com and give them a read. So, going back to some news this week, we have a certain return at SummerSlam. The SummerSlam we previewed in depth last week.
We did,
and I tried not to look at the count of who picked who, because I gave up after about 3. It was like 0 and 3 at some point. I was like, no, I'll give up now. Anyway, somebody returned, which we didn't actually call. And are you happy? Are you sad? Are you indifferent, John?
I'm Pete.
Oh, yep.
Not used to having just the one other co-host, are we?
I'm so sorry.
It's fine. I'm actually kind of excited for this Roman Reigns return. Congratulations, Roman. Welcome back to the main event picture that was built because of your absence. But I think that ultimately gives him kind of that fire that he needs to really bring out the heel in him. which we think is what's going on right now, because he just showed up. He showed up. He just absolutely unleashed on both Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. And I like to just comment on the shirt he was wearing. Do you remember the catchphrase on his shirt, Mark?
Yeah.
It said
it was
wreck everyone and leave.
Yeah.
Which echoes back to that Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt. The arrive, raise hell, leave.
That's the one.
Is that where they're trying to go with Roman Reigns in this new persona, you think?
I sincerely hope not, because if they're going to try and push him as the new Stone Cold, he's going to fall flat on his arse, I'm afraid. I've had so many people ask me whether or not Reigns is heel. I had so many after SummerSlam, people were private messaging me on WhatsApp and Facebook saying, "Is it like I'm some all-knowing sage?" Even though I was completely crap with my picks that night. That they was, is he a heel? He's come in and he's completely decimated the pair of them with a steel chair. Does that mean he's a heel? No, not way. It means that he's back. He's come back to stake a claim to show everyone that he's back, and he doesn't mess about. He means business.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like kind of a heel thing to do, but at the same time, we've seen returns like that before. Like I mentioned earlier, Stone Cold Steve Austin, that night he returned to help Mankind with the championship.
Yeah.
He just showed up, hit The Rock with a chair. I guess really the act of hitting someone with a chair in itself isn't what determines who's face and who's heel, but rather who is doing the hitting and who is taking that hit. And even then, I think that still leaves things very vague as to where Roman stands at the moment. And I think the fact is that we've seen too little to say for certain either way.
It's fact that he's now booked for this Sunday's pay-per-view Payback in a freeway against two heels. That should show people that we're a bit indifferent and a bit, I'm not sure. That should show them that he is the face. He's not the face to run the place, but he is back. And what he, as I said, what he did on at SummerSlam was to just reassert himself in the main event scene and via a chair. Yeah, in a dominant way. Yeah.
What are we expecting from this run?
I don't want him to win. As much as Vince will want him to come back and the all-conquering hero pick up the title and carry on into the future, this COVID area, I don't want him to win, because then once again Bray gets shafted. And how many times is that guy going to get shafted before he just goes, up yours, I'm off to AEW, or up yours, I'm off to the Indies?
Yeah, really. I mean, how many losses is he going to take to Roman Reigns before it really becomes clear that even with this new exciting, well, not really new anymore, but even with this exciting new persona who's able to get those results, who's able to do interesting things like that Firefly Funhouse match at Mania, he's still just another guy who's supposed to lose to conquering babyface Roman Reigns.
He's not just a conquering babyface, is he? He's a conquering babyface with amazing teeth. Did you see the Instagram spat between him and Randy Orton?
I did not.
So Reigns posted a picture of himself at the end of SummerSlam holding the Universal Championship aloft. I'm back, this is my art, or, I'm paraphrasing there. And Randy Orton was like, yeah, fantastic, you're back, well done. And he posted the same picture, but alongside a picture of a horse that was smiling with the whitest teeth I've ever seen. Do you watch Friends? Does anyone here that listen to us watch Friends? There was an episode of Friends where Ross bleached his teeth and they were so bright that they lit up under black light. That's kind of like where Roman Reigns' teeth is at the moment. Surely it's going to die down, but I think he must have bleached it on the day of the event. And Roman Reigns and Randy just went at it a little bit on Twitter and Instagram over his teeth rather than what actually happened that night, which took away from the beating that he gave the boys. But yeah, as I said, I personally don't want him to win. Whether he does, I don't know. I'm not too sure where Uncle Vince's head at, where he's what's best for business, brother, and all that kind of stuff. What about you? Where do you see that going?
I am privy to a little bit of backstage knowledge which mind you, it's a little bit old now, but I remember hearing from back when Reigns was still sitting out due to COVID. Vince McMahon's opinion of him was going back and forth wildly.
Yeah,
there was a while there where nobody even mentioned Roman Reigns was booked at WrestleMania, and so that nobody was talking about him in his absence kind of illustrated that, you know, maybe Reigns had taken too many liberties with the kind of lenience that Vince was going to allow him, and that was kind of playing out in his absence. I think this is going to be similar to the situation shortly after Reigns tested positive for performance-enhancing substances, where he's going to take this loss, but it's not going to mean that much in the long run to him.
Yeah, totally agree. For him to come back with so much time off, grabbing the big one, he'll be under so much heat, and you know, it wouldn't even be his fault, it would come from above, but he'll have so much heat that it's as you said, it's just best for him to take the loss, and then within the next 8 weeks, I would imagine, maybe even as far as Survivor Series, he'll pick up that title, and then he'll be off and running once again, like nothing's changed. Yeah,
and even if it's not the big one, he'll have a couple months as U.S. champion. It'll be a dominant run, or not in U.S. champion, I guess Intercontinental champion. He'll have a dominant run there, and then he'll come back to the main event scene.
As much as that sucks, because I'm a firm believer of paying your dues, and admittedly, he did the right thing. He's got newborn twins. He had to stay away. But that doesn't mean you come back in and insert yourself in the main event scene. This is not 1988. This is not Hogan going off to film a film or a TV show and then come back and challenge straight away for the title. Things have moved on, and it just sucks that that's happening. I can see why it's happening, because Vince still sees him as a standard bearer, as the face. It's just one of those things. I'm hoping it's not. It probably end up being true.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this comes out more equitably for all sides, but we'll have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see on tenterhooks. Well, some on tenterhooks anyway. So going on to you, our Impact Wrestling specialist, Pablo. You have been watching Impact Emergence Night 2 last week.
I did. I did a big. Actually, I'll get to that when that time comes. Let's just start with the events that took place at Emergence. Opening match: Eddie Edwards versus Rob Van Dam for as part of Eddie Edwards' Impact World Championship Open Challenge.
What do you think of the Open Challenge for a world title? We've seen it a few times on the secondary titles, and maybe even tag titles, but never for the main championship. What do you think of that? Is that making Impact stand out from the rest, do you think?
Not particularly. I don't think it's making Impact stand out. I think it's making up for the fact that the World Championship was not on TV for so very long, while Tessa Blanchard was ostensibly stuck in Mexico. And so to kind of have that World Championship as the prize for the Open Challenge kind of makes up for any prestige that would have been lost in that championship not being on TV.
Do you think Eddie's going to carry that forward, as like Cody and Cena before? Is he going to be, not every week, but every time he's out there, he's going to offer people out and say, "Do you want this? Come get some," kind of thing?
Yeah, I do, and it's because he promised to be a fighting champion, and he has to carry that word. However, because it is an open challenge, I don't think it's going to be a particularly long run, because that's kind of the thing that you open yourself up to with an open challenge.
Yeah. So with RVD coming a bit short, spoilers, folks. With coming a bit short this past week, who do you see on the horizon? Is there anyone there that could step up?
It genuinely looks like it's going to be Eric Young next week. he pretty much said as much after the match, and which is interesting because, as you said last week, they weren't going to do that as a match on free TV. So I guess a sidebar prediction for that match: non-finish. I don't think they're going to give away a finish to that match on free TV.
that'll be a feud that gathers pace over a good few weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, and then it will finish up on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
However, to just speak on the match itself for a little bit, very slow, kind of boring match, even given Rob Van Dam's advancing age. Really comes across as a curtain jerker that dreamed of the stars. Yeah, like Rob Van Dam really didn't seem to get out of first gear at all during that match. It was really just him relying on Katie Forbes to get involved and cause occasional distractions. Really not a good look for either man in this match.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that thought that, because I sat there and obviously the show kicked off and the big reveal of RVD answering the challenge, and you're thinking, oh wow, okay, they're going to have a really good fast-paced match to get I would say the crowd going, but the crowd at home going, and just go flat. And I was at home. I was feeling guilty for thinking that. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one that thought that.
Yeah, like we should have expected better from both men, but it looks like this is just going to be a stepping stone for Eddie Edwards to get to his match with Eric Young.
Yeah.
However, I will say that I am relieved that he finally got an open challenge response from one of the ECW originals. Because while he was doing this open challenge, I kept thinking, when is it going to be like Tommy Dreamer or Rob Van Dam stepping up? Next.
The ECW guy, I love both guys. I'm a huge Tommy Dreamer guy. I've met him once. I've had a 10-minute chat with him about anything but wrestling. I bought a hoodie from him, which I had to explain to someone, i.e. my wife, that it was a raffle win because it was bloody expensive. But that's a story for another time. But he is so cool. Tommy Dreamer is so cool, and I wouldn't want to see him in the main event picture. I'm sorry. By sound of it, he's going after Brodie in AEW from his tweets that he's got out.
Ooh. Is he still involved in AEW?
I haven't heard or seen anything about it. And obviously, he's still got his House of Hardcore, which is on hiatus like everything else at the moment. So he may be going chasing Brodie Lee in you've heard Cody. He's one of my friends. F you. Mm-hmm. But we will see. We will see.
Yeah, I suppose we will. On the subject of Tommy Dreamer, he was on Wrestle House this week.
He was, yes.
And I gotta say that I am really starting to appreciate Wrestle House for what it is, which is like it's enjoyably goofy. I mean, and when it's bad, you can it's the kind of bad that you can kind of groove on. Like if you've ever watched a movie that's on TV late at night, you can kind of start to groove on the bad bits. And I think it's really just a good way to keep Skyway Studios from getting too crowded, while also keeping those people on TV.
Yeah, you're right. It's a great way. I'm not sure if they follows. Oh man, is it the Joshi version of Wrestle House, or what was it called over there? And are they trying to follow that kind of template over here? And as you said,
I'm actually not familiar with what you're talking about.
There was a reality show over in Japan. I'm not sure which promotion it was. I want to say it was a Joshi promotion, but I'm not sure which one it was, that had a Wrestle House kind of feel to it. It ended in tragedy, which we're not going to get into now.
Terrace House.
That's the one, Terrace House.
I don't think that was a pro wrestling thing. It was just that a pro wrestler was on it.
I know that there's been pro wrestlers on there before.
Okay.
And that's obviously crossed wires. But going down that route and with the change in the climate, with COVID and everything else, as you said, keeping a bare minimum in the arena, so to speak. But Wrestle House works if you can view it the way that you've just said, in that kind of, that was fun 5 minutes, that was goofy, that was great. If you go in there as a pure wrestling fan, blinkered, I want wrestling, I want 20-minute 5-star matches, you're going to be really disappointed.
Very disappointed if that's what you're hoping for. Just because, and you can kind of get a sense of that just from the mix of people who are involved.
Yes.
I don't think your wrestling aficionados are going to be expecting any master classes from Crazy Steve or Larry D.
But yeah, it's, as you said, it is what it is. It's fun. It's a segment. It moves moves the show on from a lackluster opening match. Going into that, it kind of raises your spirits again. So it did its job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we had two wins for Crazy Steve in the Wrestle House over Johnny Swinger, and now I'm the one who's looking unprofessional.
Never let that mantle fall on me. It's me. It's fine. I will take the unprofessionalism with a pinch of salt and a large dose of tequila.
I've since forgotten.
That's cool.
Moving on. We had Willie Mack versus Brian Myers. A really good, really well-paced match. I gotta ask, why didn't that open the show?
You're scratching your head, really, aren't you? As you said, why didn't that open the show rather than the lackluster World Championship match?
Which is not to say necessarily that it would have changed the quality of that opening match between Eddie Edwards and Rob Van Dam, but it definitely would have made that opening less hard to get through.
Yeah, if you're a average fan, a casual fan, just happen to tune in, and that's the first thing you see. Personally, I would have tuned straight back out again.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
if you swap them around and had the Myers and Mac match, you would have gone, oh wow, that was exciting, that was good. What's next?
Yeah, and then they could have been disappointed by the Eddie Edwards and RVD match, but they would have stuck through the whole show because that's just one clunker. The match itself, like the concept of the match, seemed kind of slapdash because it was a match that they only scheduled the week before, and it really seemed like night 2 was kind of just a formality. Like this was. Fortunately,
yeah, you're right. As you said, I think it was 2 weeks ago. You've overloaded night 1, and night 2 was always going to be not as good as night 1, and unfortunately, it showed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spoilers for my overall review. Yeah, I'm glad that Myers got his win. I think he really needed that win after his debut in the Open Challenge, and I'm hoping he gets more momentum moving forward.
Well, he's playing a sneaky heel. I mean, he grabbed the win by sneaky
handful of tights,
sneaky ways, handful of tights. So yeah. He's off and running now. He's at the races. So let's get the momentum going. And Willie Mack is Willie Mack. He can take the loss.
Yep.
He's a super dude. So
he's a big man who can move, and us wrestling fans, that's just a thing we can't get enough of.
Yes.
After that, we had EC3 explaining his motivations for stealing the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, and I was actually really into this spot. I think this is when EC3's character went from simply interesting to actually quite compelling, and I think that's just because a major part of that, I should say, is because he doesn't seem like he wants to wrestle Moose for the championship, and in fact he's interested in taking this angle that kind of sets them both free of the yoke of their runs in TNA.
It was a very clever promo. As you said, it deviated from where you think it was going to go.
And
you bang on.
For those who aren't aware, EC3 has been trying to take control of the story of his life, as it were. And you have this story where he leaves TNA when he was one of the top contenders in the promotion, to go to WWE, where he does much of nothing in NXT, and then he gets called up to the main roster and does much of nothing. So he's kind of a 2-time WWE and I guess a 2-time NXT dropout. And so he is on this mission to prove that his TNA run doesn't define him, and neither do.
That's a fair way. Yeah, that's a fair way of looking at it.
And neither does his lack of success in WWE. And I think he's trying to, like he said, he said in his promo that when he was TNA World Heavyweight Champion, when he won for the first time, was the last time he was truly happy. And so to move on, to find new happiness, he has to destroy that belt.
Storytelling. Simple storytelling.
Yeah,
in my eyes,
simple,
anyway.
Simple but compelling storytelling. And I think whether whether this starts a feud between EC3 and Moose, who has been very protective of the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, even though it's not recognized by Impact Wrestling. I think that whether it's a feud, whether it's an alliance, that's really good because the story overall is about moving on, and I think that's going to be a very interesting angle that I'm very excited to see play out.
I asked last week and said, unless they can give us a reason to get behind or boo EC3, he's going to lose momentum pretty quick. And lo and behold, a week later, he's expanded on what his MO is, what he's going to do. And as you said, I'm gripped. I am hooked. I am all in on this. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
More. That's what I'm saying. Work your way up, and then Eddie Edwards maybe down the line, or in Eric Young, whoever. It's, as I said, I'm all in. This is great storytelling.
Truly, well done for Impact for really throwing off the yoke of their TNA history. Yes, yeah, embracing it and throwing it away at the same time. It's something that WWE should look at and maybe do every once in a while. Us fans do it. Why can't they do it? Yeah, I mean, we can acknowledge with a wink and a nudge some of the less savory things from the past.
Exactly.
And acknowledge while also acknowledging the things that were great. But it's now time for us to talk about that main event, Deonna Purrazzo versus Jordynne Grace for the Knockouts Championship in that 30-minute Iron Man match. Any thoughts, Mark?
I liked it. I didn't love it. I think I went in with too much expectation.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there.
Only giving them 30 minutes, I don't say only, but only giving them 30 minutes when I think that they could have told a better story and had, therefore, a better match with maybe even 45-minute Iron Man match doesn't exist, but something along those lines. They needed, in my eyes, more time to tell a better story and therefore get a better match. Admittedly, it was a good match.
Yeah.
It wasn't a match, in my eyes, to close the show, though.
Yes, especially as only half an hour, like you said. I think for the most part they did fairly well, but I think it was towards the end where they had to pick up the pace a bit too much, and I think that's where this match started to fall short.
I'm thinking that maybe they were into my kind of thinking as well, that we've got more time than what we did, and then you got someone that, maybe even the referee saying, you've got to speed it up, girls, go home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all that happened, all the rush, which is noticeable. It's just a shame. Like I said, you can't take anything away from the match. It was a good match.
Yeah, true.
But it was more in my eyes.
I think the more the notes I have here, I was quite surprised about Jordynne Grace's technical skill, because
she was good.
Yeah, we've seen her do her power moves. We've seen her do a little bit of grappling, but to see her against someone like Deonna Purrazzo, who is extremely skilled in those technical in that technical style, was something that I've kind of forgotten that she could do. And that's a match that I think that could have gone either way until Purrazzo blasted Grace with the belt.
Did we expect anything less from a dirty heel?
Yeah, and that's the thing that I had mentioned when we were talking about it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
when I talked about her potentially getting a win or utilizing foreign objects in some manner, and that's kind of what I wanted to get to here, is that I think ultimately Purrazzo has been overstating her skills, and I think that she's going to be making it away. She's going to be making off with the championship. Not because necessarily of those skills as strong as they are, but because of that killer instinct. She's going to be like Adrian Neville when he was NXT champion.
Yeah, they know how to close it out,
which is a really interesting way to go about that in the women's division, because I think that's not a thing we have seen very much of in women's wrestling.
You've seen the dominance. You've seen the sneaky heels, but someone, as you said, someone like Purrazzo, who can, knows when and where. She has that ability to now is the right time to strike. As you said, you don't often see that, if ever, in a women's division.
I'm trying to think of any examples of this we might have seen, and the closest I got is maybe Victoria from WWE in like 2003, 2004. That's over a decade ago.
I mean,
things that are old can be new again.
Exactly. Exactly. Such time has passed now that apparently us wrestling fans don't have a long memory, so it's just brand new again. But you are bang on the money.
Mm-hmm. Overall, I think night 2 was fairly weak as a show compared to night 1. But I think if it was all one show, if it was one 2-hour show, I think we could have been a lot more forgiving of some of the clunkers that came along the way. I think if this was if TNA were still running, if Impact Wrestling were still running weekly pay-per-view, or not weekly, monthly pay-per-views, and this were like the addition of Sacrifice for 2020, yeah, I'd have paid my $40 to see that.
You're not wrong there. If, as you said, you condense both shows into one, you'd walk away feeling, yeah, I was entertained. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the show. But as you said, splitting it into two, and you've already kind of shot your bolt on the first show and overloaded it with the championships and the great matches. The second show is going to have such a hard job to match that at least, and it fell short by a few notches. Mm-hmm. But the saving graces, as you said, were seeing Deonna Purrazzo in a new light, so to speak. Seeing that attitude of grabbing the win from anywhere, at any moment, any time, and then you've got the EC3 storyline going forward with that. They were, in my eyes, the saving graces of that show.
Truly, especially with such a slow championship match and a Wrestle House that seems to be committed to being goofy.
You can't go wrong with it. Goofy in your life.
It needs something to balance out all this. You need something to balance out all the seriousness. But yeah, that's Emergence Night 2 in the books.
Done and dusted.
I understand we have some things to push that are coming up next week.
Yes. Again, this is where I'd hand off to Mark, and he's obviously off on assignment for ProWrestlingPost.com, and I'm left to do this. So this could be fun. Get your record button ready, folks. So first up this week, coming up, we have a Indie Spotlight watch on Caveman Ugg. Now, you may think that that's a very strange gimmick, and in all intents and purposes, you could be right. But Caveman Ugg is one hell of a wrestler. We had a guest blog this week from Justin Mosteler. He's handing in a piece for us, and it's all about Caveman Ugg, about his rise to dominance over in Australia and New Zealand. It's a great read. I can't wait for you to read it. To be fair, I didn't know anything about Caveman Ugg at all. I've known for some of the promotions that he's worked for, places like PWA Black Label, which we cover on the site. He's also did Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, PWG, the Battle of Los Angeles last year. So some of you hardcore fans might actually have seen him. He's very, very good. The gimmick is very, very strange, but it all works. It's great. It's a great read. That will be out sometime this week. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you when, because otherwise you just pop on and see it whenever. So keep your eyes on the site, and you will see that very soon.
You talk about the strange gimmicks. That's the thing that I'm admittedly kind of a sucker for. I can list tons of examples of just the strange gimmicks that I've gotten wholeheartedly behind just because of how strange they are. There's a guy who wrestled for Alpha One by the name of Space Monkey, and that's his gimmick, is that he's a monkey who went to space and came back in a much different proportions, and has used that newfound size to become a pro wrestler.
See, this is where I think Vince has written us fans down as wrong. He changed the narrative in WWE to change everything to more realistic. Eric Bischoff at the same time in WCW, more realistic. Fans want realism. We want this. Yeah, okay, we do. We also want to be taken out of that every once in a while. And these gimmicks don't happen so much. And to see these gimmicks like Caveman Ugg, like Space Monkey, which I'm now going to finish this pod later and go looking for, it's different, and it's because it's different, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, like those it's those characters that are so far out there But before we were recording, you were talking about the show you saw with the Anti-Fun Police.
Yes.
Like I said, one of those gimmicks that is just so far out there, but we love it because it's so far out there and because it opens up all these new possibilities. Always great to see that on the indie scene. They're
not a Duke the Dumpster Drozy. They're not a Doink the Clown. They're not that outlandish. They're just... Well, I'll say outlandish. We're talking about Space Monkeys, so maybe I should shut up. Okay, the second piece out this week is by our good friend Alex, and he is doing an On This Day about a certain match between Kenta Kobashi and Dr. Death Steve Williams. This match took place on the 31st of August in 1993, so that's coming up to 27 years. And it's a match that has gone down in history. It was hard, it was tough, it cemented both men as complete and utter legends of the sport, because this is Japan, it's not entertainment, it is a sport. And Alex has written an amazing piece, and I can't wait for you guys to read it.
I'm excited to read it as well. Kenta Kobashi and Dr. Death Steve Williams, two of the greats in All Japan. And you say it was 27 years ago? So that's an early 90s All Japan classic right there. Two guys who were exemplary of that King's Road style that Giant Baba was so strong on in the foundation of All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Alex's piece here, it's not just, hey, remember this. It is a breakdown of the match. Mm-hmm. It is showing some YouTube clips from the match. It is a complete and utter dissertation on a fantastic match. And as I said, I can't wait for you guys to read it, including yourself, because obviously you're a fan of the Japanese style.
Indeed. I'm a fan of those early All Japan days. And especially when you have guys like Dr. Death in there, you got guys like Bruiser Brodie, and the four pillars, Kobashi, Kawada, Misawa, and Akira Tao. Really great stuff that they were doing in that time. And stuff that really echoes in the kind of wrestling we're seeing today in the indies and on TV.
If you're not too sure what the four pillars are, go check our site and check out the indie spotlights, I think they are, and some On This Days and everything else, blogs. Just check them out. Just type in four pillars and you will read all about the four pillars, who, to be fair, up until about 2 months ago, I had no idea who they were.
Really?
For my shame. Yeah, for my shame, I had no idea who they are. When it comes to Japanese wrestling, I didn't really get into it until 2008, 2009-ish. So, again, I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to say it. We don't entertain, we educate at the same time. And you're educating me. I'm the editor of the site, and I read this stuff and go, bloody hell, I didn't know that. So just go out of your way, folks, and just read some of this stuff. It's just really good work. Really good work.
And that's amongst other wonderful pieces that will be on the site next week. We're starting to run a little long. I guess we can wrap up. I missed Raw Underground this week. Decided to use it as a bathroom break. Was Brock Lesnar on?
Much like yourself, I was kind of busy during that section of Raw. I was washing my hair, so I'm not sure if he showed. I haven't seen anything online, and if Mark would hear, he would probably tell us, because he is the head honcho of Pro Wrestling Post and he knows everything. But yeah, I haven't heard anything. I was washing my hair and giving it a good old scrub. Yeah, maybe next week. Hopefully. Yeah. Touch wood.
Well,
that's me touching wood right there.
Right then.
So yes, that's the end of the show. We're running long. Without Mark here to timekeep us, we've kind of overrun a little bit, but never mind. So this is us saying goodbye. But before we go, Pablo, where can people find you, mate?
You can find me on Twitter at Pete Probably. No one's gotten to me about the username quite yet, which we'll have to. I'm
disappointed. I am disappointed. I may have to make just a separate Twitter account and just message you randomly, just to ask why your name is not Pablo more than anything else.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why I went for Pete Probably, because I guess Pablo probably was taken.
I'm so sorry. It's been a long day, and I called you Mark, and then I've sort of carried the joke on possibly a bit too long. My name's Mark Blake. You can find me on Twitter at Mark Blake PWP. I completely forgot myself there, but never mind. Next week, hopefully, we'll have a full team. Next week, we'll have more news for you, and next week, we'll have more pieces for you. So until that time, Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Goodbye.